Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of Building on WordPress. My name is Josh Donnelly, and in today's episode, we are going to take a look at what is coming in the next major release of the Cornerstone Builder. Now, this is all currently still in beta. As you can see here, we are currently on beta 3, and we are playing around with some of the new features. A lot of these are workflow and quality of life improvements within the builder, so we are going to rapid fire through some of those high-level updates here in this overview video. So without further ado, let's dive in. First and foremost, on the back end of WordPress, you will notice that we now have an updated Cornerstone settings page. And this settings page is simplified so that you still have access to all of the advanced controls, but they are nicely organized within various tabs. So under our general controls here, we can change the path for the Cornerstone application. And this is a nice improvement. We can set a default workspace arrangement. In my case, I like workspace left, and so that is the default here for all of our users. We can also enable or disable this built with Cornerstone badge here. When enabling that, you will see something kind of like this right here with the built with Cornerstone callout. Jumping over, we have our permissions, and all of this is the same. It's just been truncated and nicely organized under our pages, posts, layouts, components, elements, templates, globals, preferences, and AI. These are all various things that you can then assign builder controls by role. So we could select editor, and then we could determine what things an editor has access to within Cornerstone. We then have our advanced controls here. This allows you to migrate to shortcodes, and you can do things like enabling the global API. And then if you have something like CSAI or some of the other premium extensions, you will see those show up here as well. So with all of that said, that is the settings revamp. But now let's dive into Cornerstone itself and see what has changed over there. So here we are in the builder, and we are starting on a new page. And you'll notice there is a new start screen. This is meant to mimic or look like all of the other sort of section and row and grid start screens. So we can get started very quickly with a blank slate using a template or cloning a page. I'm going to go ahead and use a template here. So we'll click on this, and we are going to add in our homepage template. So we get something like this here. Now, this is great. So let's take a look at some of the new changes here under the hood. First and foremost, as you guys know, if I wanted to see the outline of this page here, I could click on outline, and then I see my sections here, and I can open up my sections and see my rows, my columns, and all of the elements in that. But if I click on something like my headline, my outline disappears and I no longer see my structure. But in 6.7.0 and beyond, you can actually jump into your user preferences here. And I currently have my outline tab in nested mode, which is the default mode that you've had for years. But now we can enable split mode, and coming soon will also be adjacent mode, which will actually show this here adjacent to your workspace inspector over here, or a modal mode, which will allow the outline to show up inside of a modal. But this gives you a nice idea of what it looks like to have both your workspace inspector and your workspace outline both visible at the same time while you are working. Now, when I click on something like this list row here, I can see everything that makes up this element. I can click on individual elements, and I can see what is selected inside of my outline hierarchy over here on the right. Now, in addition to the outline, we now also have access to gradients. So let's go ahead and jump over to our globals here, and we'll go into our colors. And currently, you'll see that we have this primary 1B color, which is what we have assigned to this headline here. So we'll jump over to that primary 1B color here. We'll open it up, and you'll notice in our color picker, we now have our solids, which is what we've traditionally had, and we have our gradients. If we select the gradient, we now get our gradient builder. So let's go ahead and open that up. Inside of the gradient builder, we can determine what kind of gradient we want to create. We have linear, radial, conic, repeating linear, repeating radial, repeating conic, etc. We're going to do a linear gradient here. Let's do a blue, and then maybe we'll we'll add a point here, and at this point, we'll go to yellow, and then on our last one here, we'll select that, and let's take this one back to fuchsia. So something kind of crazy there, give it sort of this sunburst look. Okay, I'm liking that. Now we can play around with our from and to. We can copy this gradient to our clipboard, we can paste the gradient, etc. But because we're doing this on our primary globals here, we should be in good shape. So we'll go ahead and we will save this, and then we're going to refresh. And instead of having to refresh the whole builder, we now have access to a reload preview button right up here. So let's go ahead and click on that, which will reload the preview with any of our global changes incorporated. And right away, you'll see that we now have a nice gradient on our text here. If we wanted to change that, we could simply click on this headline, and we can see that gradient selection right here. But let's say we wanted a one-off. We didn't want to use our global. Well, we can click edit the gradient, and now we're no longer using that global primary 1B that we've created here. We're setting up our own gradient behind the scenes. So we could say we wanted something like, instead of this fuchsia here, we want it to go to more of a green, and it's just on this one here. But if I were to duplicate this headline and I was to set this second headline back to our primary 1B, it'll tell me I'm about to override the gradient I've been working on, which I'm going to say is okay. And now we have our top one, which is a one-off gradient that we worked on, and our bottom one, which is pulling from our global color palette. Now we can add these gradients to all sorts of things within Cornerstone. It is not just limited to backgrounds and text, but let's go ahead and take a look at how we could do an overlay. Here we have a section. Let's go ahead and click on that section. We'll click on advanced here, and let's go ahead and add a background image. Now this background image that we're going to add will be this one of water right here. So we'll go ahead and insert that into our post, and that's looking good, but I want to create a little bit of separation here. So I'm going to add an upper layer. It's going to be a color. Within the color builder, I'm going to select gradient, and now you'll see we have a gradient here, but I want this to be more of a black fade gradient. So we're simply going to go black here, and then black here, and then instead of to right, we're actually going to say to bottom, and this will be a top-down gradient. So then we'll select our second color right here, and we'll add some transparency there, and let's see what this looks like. That's looking good, but instead of to bottom, I actually want this to be to top. So let's go ahead and say to top, and now our gradient looks something like this here, which I think is pretty good. Now, another great feature within Cornerstone is that we can now set our background position responsively. So if we wanted this background to move when it was on tablet or on mobile, we could simply say, okay, here on this large mobile 767 pixels and down, we want the position to be, I don't know, I'm making this up, we'll just say 80%. So it's going to shift everything over. So now it looks fine on desktop, but then down here, it's going to shift over. So let's actually say we want to take that a step further. On desktop, we want this to be this water image here. But when we get down to mobile sizes, maybe starting at tablet on down, we want to actually change the image out altogether. Well, the great news is this is now fully native within Cornerstone. All you have to do is jump into the image responsive sizes here, go into our tablet size here, we'll delete the image that we're currently using of the water, we'll open up our media library here, and we'll choose the image of this Ferris wheel here, and we'll go ahead and insert that into our post. And now let's go ahead and actually take that a step further, and on the smallest of mobile sizes, we'll use this space image here, and we'll add that in. And now as we work our way down, we have desktop, smaller, laptop, tablet switches to our Ferris wheel, mobile, still a Ferris wheel, and then smallest mobile is now outer space. So you can actually control your images responsively based on screen sizes. Another great addition in the latest update of Cornerstone is the ability to click on any button and actually set the tag for that button. So it can be the traditional A tag on the button, or you can specify an actual button tag on the button and then a button type, whether it's a submit button or a standard button. So all of those controls are now exposed to you inside of the builder. Another great addition here is if we add something like the accordion element, and you'll notice that if we then jump into the header on the accordion element, we can also specify the HTML tag for the header here. So is it a button? Is it a paragraph? Is it an H2, an H1, an H3, etc.? So that can now be set on the root level of the accordion element. Now, another great native enhancement is within the image element. So let's go ahead and jump into our image element here, and we'll add that. Within this image element, let's go ahead and add some sort of random image in here. We'll go ahead and add the one of this drink here and click insert into post. And what you'll notice is that it pulled through the image in its native aspect ratio. But we can actually come in here and we can set this to cover, and then we can scroll down to aspect ratio here. And now we can add an aspect ratio in here for this image. So we can come in here, we can type 16/9, and it's going to automatically scale this to 16:9 here, and it'll hold that aspect ratio through the various sizes here. And the great thing is, just like all other things, this is controllable by screen size here, so you can control aspect ratio responsively. Now, one more item that is above and beyond the standard Cornerstone builder is the new CSAI Premium extension. And the CSAI extension is meant to natively incorporate all of the different AI models that you might be leveraging in your workflow directly inside the Cornerstone builder. And there's going to be a lot that this can do and a lot of enhancements that this can enable. But let's go ahead and take a look at a simple use case here. Let's say we want a short paragraph here about the ocean, right? Something like that. Well, we're going to simply click on this text here. We're going to go ahead and open up our native editor, and you'll notice because I have CSAI enabled, I now have another icon right over here next to my dynamic content. This icon is my CSAI icon. And if I click on CSAI, it opens up a chat window here. And the nice thing about this is just integrating all of these different models into your Cornerstone workflow experience. Now, to wire this up for the first time, you can do this on the back end of WordPress or directly here inside of Cornerstone. We can open up our CSAI global settings. So we'll go ahead and open that here. And then you can determine your providers for all of the different content types. So if it's standard chat, I want OpenAI. If it's text to image, I might want Stable Diffusion. If it's image to image, I might want X, Y, or Z, text to speech, text to video, etc. I can set those things. I then put in my API keys or server destinations for all of those things. Currently, I just have OpenAI set as our provider here, for example. And now what we're going to go ahead and do is click again on this text, open this up. We're going to go ahead and just highlight this and delete it. So now we have no text in here. Then we're going to click on our CSAI icon so that it knows that we have this selected. And we're going to say, please write a short 3-sentence paragraph about the Atlantic Ocean. And we'll go ahead and send that off. Now, because I have my chat set to OpenAI, this is being powered through my OpenAI. I can then simply click this plus sign here, which will add that paragraph directly to the builder here, and everything is written. So we have some good placeholder in here. This makes sense. And we can then add to this if we need to. So we can customize, we can edit, but we can quickly get stuff directly from things like OpenAI. But let's go ahead and take that a step further. Let's go ahead and click on this image here, and we'll go ahead and give this image a class. We'll call it test image, right? Now what we want to do is open up our code editor. So we'll open up custom code, and in our page CSS or our global CSS, we'll then go ahead and open up CSAI. Inside of this here, I'm going to go ahead and type, please create some CSS that allows for the class test-image to appear as though it is floating or breathing up and down in a loop, right? Something like that. And we'll send this off. And the great thing is with CSAI, as soon as it comes back with our CSS here, we can simply click the plus sign and it'll add it directly to our page CSS here. Now, because I am not specifying this on the element level, I'm going to go ahead and add the class test-image in here. And now our image is floating right over here, and it is all working nicely. And then finally in CSAI, you'll notice that there are a couple of different things that you can leverage. There are action settings. By opening this up here, you can play around with your frequency penalty, max tokens, presence penalty, etc. And you can then open up your prompt library here where there are theme prompts that are created for you, but you can also open up custom prompts where you can create your own pre-made, pre-configured prompts to easily access those in the future. Now, there's a lot I'm cramming into this video, and there is truly a lot in this update. But as always, I hope you guys have found this video useful, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.